Darlene King Turner, welcome to Unstuck. I'm glad you're here, and I'm honored that you are here. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh, thank you so much, Tim. You are so welcome. I'm honored. So I appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you today.
I'm glad to do it, and I'm trying to make sure that I give people their flowers right away
Oh,
because I've been looking at your work, and we just got acquainted within the last year or so,
yes.
and I am floored by how much of your life you've given to helping people.
Yeah, I
From your
appreciate
early
that.
days promoting concerts to getting consulting, coaching, events, educating people, even working with national organizations on everything from policy to practice. You have given your life to service and to community, and we are better for it. I just want you to know that, and I wanted you to hear that, that I'm really proud to know you, and your work is huge, and as we unpack your story, I think the folks listening will find the same thing out, but I just wanna start with, your story is one we honor, and I wanna give you those
Oh,
flowers right away.
I so appreciate that. I really do. This is a humbling moment for me to be recognized for the work that I've done, but it has never been about me. It's always about how can we as contributors to society and to the
Yeah.
spaces and places that we are residing in or that we're in. How do we give back and how do we uplift other people? So I appreciate that and thank you so much for seeing me.
Yes, yes, and your work is seen, and you are too. Now,
Thank
I
you. Thank
met
you.
you in Detroit,
Yes.
and if I'm not mistaken, you are a Detroit person.
That I am
You
proud,
got some
proud,
what up
proud.
dough in your spirit. Is
What
this
up,
correct?
dough in my spirit. That is so true.
Now tell me what it's like growing up in the D. Talk to me about how that experience shaped what you're up to today.
Growing up in Detroit in the Metro Detroit area has been just an amazing experience. I think that Detroit is one of the most diverse places in our state as a whole when we think about it, right? From that perspective.
That's true.
My parents came from the segregated South, right? My father from Florida, my mom's from Alabama. And so
Wow.
the community that I grew up in is right outside, 1 block away from Detroit. So it's still Detroit and the Metro Detroit area. But I grew up and went to school in an area that was very diverse.
Yeah.
The high school and the elementary schools, we were really, really diverse, and we had
And I mean
great.
globally
Yeah,
diverse,
globally diverse, right? You know what I
right?
mean? From that perspective, and it was just an amazing time. But when we left school, we went back to our prospective sides of the streets, right?
Mm,
On where we lived. But from a socioeconomic perspective and from a race relations perspective and from a global perspective, when we gathered as a community, it was a strong community. But then when the community things were over, we went back to, our prospective sides of the street. But we were
mm,
rich in culture, rich in history,
yeah.
rich in advocacy here, rich in workforce. We're the manufacturing, city and capital of the world, right? When you think
Yes.
about the big three from that perspective. And so just a really huge background in understanding what hard work means, what
Mm,
collectiveness means, what giving back and contribution means, because that's how we survived. That was we
mm,
didn't know anything. We didn't know anything else, and so that is what growing up in Detroit was really all about: culture and the arts and
Mm.
all of the things for you to really for it to really whet your appetite around what more can I do? How can I be involved? And how can I support this amazing concept of culture within the community and beyond? So yeah, that was my experience here.
If I feel like that piece of it, stepping outside of your block and experiencing, we used the word before we got on, mosaic,
Yeah,
experiencing a mosaic of life around you, all these different ways people come and people show up. You experience the richness of diversity, the
yeah, I
depth
did.
of it, the way it could create a
Yeah,
better
yeah.
life, in America, and everybody doesn't have that gift growing up in
Mm.
their zip code, where they're able
Yeah,
to see different and engage with different. Talk to me about the importance of, let's call it mosaic awareness, the ability to
yeah,
get different pieces from that richness of difference.
yeah, yeah. I love that. I did a presentation a couple of years ago to a client on the quilted fabric from which we all come from.
Hmm,
With my parents being from the South, the making of quilts were huge.
sure.
Grandmama and great grandma, they would take pieces of fabric from anything from a burlap bag, a old t-shirt, a old dress, a old suit, a old coat, and make the most beautiful quilt and blanket ever. And it really reminded me of us as a society and us as community and us as people. Different textures, different colors, different fabrics, different
Mhm.
thickness, thinness, jacquard, silk, cotton, all different. But it
But they in
made
there.
when it came together, it
Yeah.
was just amazing, right? And so, when you talk about the for me, that mosaic of growing up in that richness of culture, as a kid, you don't see it as that. You just see it as this your life,
This is it.
what you this is it. This is what you've been dealt with. This is what you've been given. And quick story, when I graduated from high school, I was accepted to Howard University. And for those that may not know Howard University, it is one of the oldest and richest historically Black colleges and universities of the HBCU family.
Mhm.
And I remember coming home, and there was this nice little lady named Miss Balowski sitting in my parents' living room. She didn't look like me, okay? She didn't look like us, right? And my mother said, "She's representing this amazing college that I need for you to go you're gonna go to." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I've been accepted to Howard. I'm
I'm
getting
going
ready
to
to be a
Howard.
bison. I'm on my way. I'm DC bound." And she said, "No, we think you need to go here." And it was a private Christian college. For many of
Wow.
you that know Michigan, you just know the map, right?
Mitten.
And the mitten. But you don't know there's another part here at the top.
The
So the
UP.
college, yeah, right? So the college in itself was here. We refer to that as the UP. And the
Yes.
UP is not very diverse in my mind, right? And as a
Upper
17-year-old,
Peninsula.
the Upper Peninsula, right? I
Yes.
didn't think that there were people that lived here, up here, right? Because I had never been further north than Flint, right?
Right.
My parents said, I said, well, I don't want to go here. And why do you want me to go here? My mother's question to me was, why do you want to go to an HBCU? And my response, because I grew up in the era of, A Different World and The Cosby Show,
Of
which
course.
promoted HBCUs, right?
And you wanted
And
to
I said,
go.
you listen, there was nowhere else to go because
That's right.
that is what they showed you, right? And I remember saying to her, she said, "Why do you want to do that?" And I said, "Because I want more of the Black experience."
Mm.
And her response to me was, "You're going to have the Black experience until you die." you need to have a different experience
That's
so that you
powerful.
can understand the rest of the world. This is in the late '80s, right?
Wow. And that's a different opinion coming out of James Brown. I'm black and I'm proud.
And I'm
Say it
black and I'm
loud.
proud, right? A
That co
totally
that's
different.
quite the statement for mom to make.
Quite the statement, right? For mom to make, right? And she was serious. I didn't have an answer. I'm 17, right? So I'm boohooing. Long story short, I went there. She said, when
Mhm.
you finish, then you can go to HBCU. It was only a 2-year college. It was the true revelation for me around a global society.
Mm.
There, I learned that there was a community of people referred to as Amish.
Hmm.
Never knew people didn't use electricity intentionally, right? On purpose.
Yeah, no.
I
Yeah.
learned about the
By choice.
Samoan by choice, right? Natives, the Samoan community and the Chippewa community.
Sure.
There was a huge Dutch and Finnish community, right, in that area. Um, So it was a life-changing experience for me because I learned how to ski. I learned about Winter Olympics, what it really, really was, right, opposed to
Yeah.
watching it on television. Um, that smoked fish was a delicacy. Just all the things. I went camping for the very first and the very last time. Never went
Have
again.
mercy.
Never had a desire, but it was diversity, right? And it was the
Yep.
mosaic of our society, and it made it so beautiful, and it was the the piece that intrigued me to say, "There's more out there in the world that I need to learn about, and how can I take that in, and how can I also give of myself to be a part of this global society that we have?" So that for me, is the richness of the mosaic and the real start for me in this work. Yeah.
I think that one of the beautiful things about that story is that all of those people brought you their cultures, and yet if I had them here, they'd be talking about what you brought from Detroit,
Yes, that
right? And that's
right
that's why acknowledging that everybody really is somebody with something to bring is the multiplier.
is the
Because
multiplier.
once your stuff means something, so does mine.
So does mine, right?
And that it is a multiplier. Feels like zero sum, but it ain't. As you and I
It's
both
not.
know, it is not.
You know it's not, because it was
Uh,
0 sum for me in the beginning, like, "This is where you're going," and I'm like, "Where is that?" Right? You know what I mean? 14 hours in a car when we would drive to Georgia for just 10, but I'm still in the same state, right? But it is. I started out thinking it was gonna be 0 sum, but it wasn't. It was so rich, and my first introduction to leadership, because my 2nd year I became a resident assistant of the
there you go.
dormitory for other cultures that didn't come from where I came from. So I not only had to lead, but I also had to learn and
Mm,
lean in so that I could lead. Because if I didn't learn them and lean into them, then I couldn't lead them, right? And so
right.
it was just the most amazing and most impactful one of the most impactful experiences in my life. Yeah.
And I would just say there's might be somebody listening who might think for a minute what we just said is against HBCUs.
And
I
it's
would
not,
argue the opposite.
and
I
it's
would
not.
argue that it actually prepares us to be excellent and to bring our culture in different ways and to be able to navigate different places. And I think that awareness, it's an and, not an or,
It's an
to your mother's point.
and not an or. It is. It's an and not an or. You know, me being the oldest, of 3 other siblings, they
Mm.
got to go to HBCUs, right? But for me, being the oldest and my parents saying, okay, this is the first, we're going to start. Do we let our child loose in DC and she full of life and all this personality and we
Yeah.
needed to tone down. We need her to be a little bit more focused. And is she really ready? I probably wasn't, you know what I mean? Really ready at that time. Now, when I
Mm.
left there, I was ready, from that perspective. And so you're right. It's not, it's not an or, you know what I mean? It's an and, from that perspective. And HBCUs are absolutely amazing. My parents just felt like I wasn't ready to be, let go at that time. And they knew, I was 17. So, they knew things
Yeah.
that I didn't know. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I had a hard time staying focused in Kalamazoo. I
That
know
right?
Atlanta wasn't for me. I wouldn't have had ag passing grade
Right? No, and
ever.
that was their worry. They were like, "Oh, no, that's too
Yeah,
close to
no,
New
no, 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 no.
York, and that's too close." No, you just like, "Girl, no, you're not doing none of it." And they were so serious. But they knew best though. They knew now
They
my
did.
other siblings, they didn't have the personality that I had, right? They were more focused and they were more, they were a little more driven at that time. I was, the people person and the social butterfly and all the things and headstrong and fearless, and they're like, no, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am."
And those things serve you pretty well now.
That
At
part, right?
17, you didn't have brakes or
Right.
yields on that thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
needed
yeah.
some time.
Yeah, I needed some grooming around it, right? I needed some
I
grooming. So
understand.
I get it, you know what I mean? I get it. And so so when I think about my direction
Mm,
and my trajectory, it is the mosaic concept that you talk about is what makes us as humans have that humanitarian flow and
mm,
touch and
that's right.
appreciation for everybody and all things, right? And how important each person in peace and culture and perspective and concept makes up the good of the whole,
That's right.
opposed to it just being my own narrow-minded thought process. And there's so much more on the outside of that, that if I open my horizons, how much better our communities, our homes, our workplaces, our society will be when we're able to broaden that horizon.
Amen to that. And
Yeah.
it's not a call for kumbaya. It really is an imperative that we have people left who will still reach across.
Yeah. Yeah.
Across a boundary that other people or the algorithm or the whatever somebody all those differences that keep us siloed up and disconnected from actually solving problems. We're
Yes.
going to have to
Right?
have people like you and I pray me that can reach across those differences because we honor them,
Because we
not
honor them.
because
It
we are afraid of them, but because we honor them so we then can still get things done across what's familiar to us. And that's a
yeah, yeah,
really powerful need today in organizations and business. And I'll just say it as a nation,
as a
in
nation.
every system we have, we're losing the people who can reach across. That's a skill set that is shrinking, and yet it's
Yeah, it is.
critical.
It's so critical, and it is shrinking, and it is so critical. But we, ha as leaders, we have to learn how to step outside of ourselves.
And that's something.
We have to learn how to step outside of ourselves and focus on what's good for the whole and what's
Mm.
good for everyone. That is the true job and responsibility, accountability, and focus of a leader is How am I pouring into others? How am I building up others? How am I supporting and advocating for others for the good of the whole? Doesn't matter your race, your sexual orientation, your religion, your background, but that you are a human being. And how
Yes,
am I pouring back into people to ensure that they can become their best selves? And when
that's right.
we're able to reach across those lines with respect and dignity and understanding and have psychological safety and create psychological safe spaces to share our experiences. Although yours may not be like mine and mine may not be like yours, but I can still have a level of respect and appreciation for it. Now we can collaborate. Now we can tear down some systems. Now we can tear down some of those procedures and those infrastructures, and we can create policies and we can create opportunities for everyone. But we got to step outside of ourselves, and that's hard to do. That's hard to do.
Particularly when you feel afraid,
Absolutely.
right? And I heard you say, about our job as leaders and about thinking about others and making room for others and focusing on what's best for the whole. I heard you, Miss Darlene. I did. And let me say with confidence, you do that. You have
Oh, and I
lived
appreciate
that.
that. Thank you.
And I'm gonna tell it. I'm gonna tell it. I'm telling you right now, Darlene King Turner, folks. I remember. I'm gonna tell a story that'll help you understand what I mean when I say you lived it. I
Okay.
remember talking to somebody, and I'll never forget. This person was in journalism, traditional newspapers,
Hmm.
and this person said, and I quote, "I my industry shut down while I was in it. I lost my profession while I was working in it." And she was talking about what do I do in that moment when the whole world around me changes and I still gotta lead? Like literally what I signed up to do is no longer doable. And you have gone through a similar situation where for years you work to help companies and organizations with diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and everything changed. We don't have to rehearse that. But what I am saying is everything might have changed at the National Diversity Council or the Michigan Diversity Council, even statewide, nationwide, in communities. There was change everywhere around you, and you turned around and still found a way to build something to help people. Other people gave up, changed names, changed all kind of stuff. Not that that's a bad thing about anyone
Right.
else. What I'm saying about you is, though, you took that definition serious.
Yeah.
You and Ivy Hunter and others stepped up. When stuff got tough, you did what leaders do. And that's a whole career shift that you couldn't control, and you still care in the same way, if not more. That is fascinating to me. That is powerful to me to listen to you talk about what a leader's supposed to do, and I'm listening to you tell your own story. How does that feel to live your values like that and then come to the Unity Collaborative?
Wow. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, "Is he talking about me? Is that me?" I'm like, because you don't think about that, you know what I mean? When I live by a scripture that says, "To whom much is given, much is required."
Amen to that.
And I just believe that I wasn't given the talent and the connections and the influence that I have to stop. Uh, That I have an obligation to humanity. I have an obligation to do what is right
Mm.
to and for other people, all people as a whole. Change is something that is inevitable. There is nothing that we can do about change. It's gonna happen while you sleeping. It's gonna happen while doing good, doing bad, doing indifferent. Change is
Amen.
happening. But when change happens, one or two other things can happen. You can either be on the agenda or you can be on the menu. If
Watch
you're
out
on
there
the
now. Hold up. Wait
agenda,
a minute. Hold up. I need you to say that one more again. You can be where?
you can be either on the agenda or you can be on the menu.
On the menu. Whoo! Come on.
On the menu.
Tell it.
When you think about an agenda and you think about a menu is something that's set. We gonna order from this menu. There's no deviation from it. We gonna eat what's on it and we gonna devour it, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And we gonna go on about our business. If you're on the agenda, you have an opportunity to collaborate, to create, to pivot, to develop, to shift, to strategize, to influence, to
Mm.
uplift, to do success. You have a whole opportunity because an agenda, you're building and you're building. You may put a couple of things on there, but when you leave up out of there, that agenda is going to roll over into the next meeting with some more ideas and some more opportunities and some more concept. So change happens, yes. But what are we going to do with that change? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So that is why we do what we do and why we're able to say yes. Things are changing in society right now. But the foundational principle of humanity and collectiveness and community and development, that's never changing. That's never gonna change. It's
We
never
need
gonna
it
change.
still.
We
And I'll tell
still
you
need it.
something else. First of all, amen. Agenda or menu. And I was going to ask you something else, but let's stay right there real quick. If you had some encouragement for leaders and maybe just people who are not happy with what they see went in a human way, even at work, what advice do you give them to get on the agenda as opposed to leaving myself open to be devoured? How do we get on the agenda when we've kind of stopped because we're discouraged or we're afraid or we tried before and it didn't work?
Yeah.
How do we get
Yeah.
there?
You have to be intentional, to be purposeful. You have to be productive and not reactive. You have to be proactive. Change is not easy. Change
No.
is hard. Change challenges leaders in ways that we never could even think about, right? Because
Yeah.
it causes us to always be on our toes and to be one or two or 10 steps ahead of how do I navigate this situation or this circumstance. A leader is no better than the team that it has around them. And if you are not utilizing your people to
Mm.
help you create that agenda, then you are going to get devoured in that process. It is not the job of a leader to know everything. That is the biggest misnomer.
It's a trap.
It's a hole trap, right? Like a bear trap, like a hole,
Yes.
like, "We got you," right? It's a trap. It's a trap. That's
You
not your
gotta have a team.
role. That's not what so I see many leaders that have fallen because they are not willing to be collaborative because I'm the leader. I have to have this certain persona. I have to be
Yep.
perceived this certain type of a way, opposed to tapping into the resources of the people that they hired and that they have around them that are brilliant individuals that have a diversity of thought and lived experiences to be able to bring to create solutions to the most complex problems that we have ever seen. But we don't want to tap into that. We don't want to, we hired them, we brought them on, but then we don't want to tap into them. And so I say that to leaders. Come out of your office. Come out of there. You can't get anything done sitting behind a desk. You have got to get to where the people are. You have to talk to them. You have to engage with them. Go into the lunchrooms. Go into a Zoom meeting. Have them help
Yeah.
you create that. Otherwise, you're going to always have challenges and issues.
Go get the perspective. That's why
Go
you
get
have
it.
that's why you want difference. That's why you want to work on these issues of making sure that everybody can raise their hand with a different idea. You need perspective to win.
You need it's a need, like all caps blinking, flashing on fire. You need perspectives. And you can't get that multiplicity of that mosaic richness of the differences of that beautiful fabrics and the quilts and the
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
of the things from one group. You have to be able to blend it all together, and that's what gives you a mosaic, not one piece of tile, but multiple pieces of media that's going to give you that beautiful mosaic. And you have to go get it. You're it's not going to come to you. It's not going to come to you.
As you may know, I'm in love with the concept of somebodyness. Dr. King got it from Gandhi, and
Mhm.
Gandhi got it from Jesus the Christ.
Yes.
This idea that everybody has in them a divine touch, a uniqueness, a value. They use the term the imago Dei, the thing that makes us unique.
Yes.
I'm a big believer in that, and I think that unlocks most every people problem at work, to be honest with you.
Every.
You can shake a little somebodyness on it, and it might just change right then and there.
Yep.
However, I think we need more of that as a strategy, and I
Mhm.
built my company so that somebodyness could meet strategy, that it couldn't just be a feeling, but a way we teach people to maximize human potential.
Mm.
And so,
Mm.
because of these dynamics of change, we still got to get somebodyness to the table. And so, if you can forecast into the future because you've got so much behind you about how these cycles of change have gone, the somebodyness soldiers that are going to take us into the future, what do the leaders who are talking about dignity for everybody, like, what do we need to have now as leaders? What are the components, the characteristics of a soldier for somebodyness looking forward?
Leaders have to be willing to be challenged and vulnerable.
Mhm.
Um, they have to be willing to receive some criticism.
Yeah.
constructive criticism, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Why?
and the
Why is that so important for the future?
the
That
constructive
criticism
criticism
part.
and why it's so important to the future
Yeah.
because, again, we just talked about that change, right? Either you're
Mm.
on the agenda or you're on the
That's right.
menu, right?
Yeah.
One
You
or the
gotta
other,
evolve.
right? And you gotta evolve. And so when we think about evolution, right, we think about the next generations that are coming up, right? Things are changing so very quickly and so very fast and so very, very quickly. There are things that I don't even attempt to address when it comes to certain things around technology or certain things around, new ways of gathering, of obtaining information. I surround myself with that generation that they were born with it in their
That's
hands.
right.
They were born with it in their hands.
That's
If
right.
we don't take a look at and start listening to and incorporating those generations and doing what I like to refer to as some reverse mentorship. You learn from them, they learn from you, and
Amen.
you create an amazing opportunity for growth and advancement, productivity and profitability. You create that opportunity along the way. Leaders have got to really begin to do what I talked about earlier. You got to step outside of yourself and you have to be able to tap into your people and you have to be able to tap into our next generation of young people who are going to be our next global leaders across
Yeah.
our society as a whole because they are privy and experienced in things that for me as a person that's a Gen Xer that I'm not privy to, that I haven't. I'm learning, but they know. And so that is the biggest thing. It still goes back to perspectives, right? It still goes back to lived experiences. It still goes back to um, being being collaborative and creating partnerships and creating all of the
Mm.
things in order to stand above and stand out and float to the top. But you can't do it by yourself. You have to be inclusive of everyone and giving them that opportunity to be able to support in that growth and advancement.
It's almost like the best of the soldiers aren't changing their strategy, they're amplifying and perfecting their skills. They're turning up the volume and getting better at what they already do. That it always has been important that you listen and that you are willing to change and that you open, but now it's a imperative that you are really, really good at it. That we gotta grow in those areas and grow in intention, grow in discipline around those very important keys because we're gonna have to take that next group with us and empower them and make sure we can hear what needs to be heard and we can open doors and we can do like I just it's funny to me that the needs are still somewhat similar and yet the call for doing it well seems to be rising. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah, I think that is fair. The call for doing it is rising. When I look at if we look at it from a leadership perspective, right? We look at workforce development, right? And
Okay.
workforce advancement, right? When we look at it through that lens, um, you have 4+ million people retiring within the next 3 to 4 years per year, right? So that's a lot of the institutional knowledge, right? That's leaving out of the door.
That's right.
That's a lot of individuals within the workforce from just one generation, right? That's just one generation, right? That's your boomer generation.
Yeah,
We
that's a
haven't
lot
talked
of
about
wisdom out the door.
a lot of wisdom out the door. If we as leaders don't begin to look at our data around tenure and how are we taking those that are leaving out and how are we bringing in the younger individuals and the new talent within and
Yeah.
where we're attracting that new talent, what's important to them, what keeps them moving and going, what's gonna cause them to come and work for you opposed to being an entrepreneur because they're on that entrepreneurial track while your institutional knowledge is leaving out of the door, then we're gonna start seeing legacy organizations shut their doors because they can't find the people
Can't keep
to
up.
do it. And
And
AI
AI
is
can't solve that.
listen, AI cannot solve it, right? Because even with AI, you have to have people to tell it what to do to give you output, right? And
Oh,
so if
man.
you don't have a human inputting into it, it's not going to give you output. So for leaders, it is important for them to understand, opposed to saying, labeling this generation, younger generation is this, or this younger generation is that. No, we need to be able to understand what their needs are, what's important to them, what their perspectives are, because that is your workforce in order for you to
Mhm.
be able to attract and retain that talent along the way. So those are the things as leaders that we need to be doing and understanding the perspectives of because they are a more inclusive and collaborative generation than any generation that I have ever seen in my lifetime. Pre me, during me, they are that collaborative generation.
That's where my hope lies, and I tell them all the
My hope
time.
lies there.
I'm banking on this next group. They got some
I am too.
courage that other generations didn't have. Although they are more concerned with how people see them online, it
Yes.
seems in person they do not care. And so we're gonna have some good combos on that. Now, I do before I get you out of here, I want to make sure we talk about how you and others are building leaders for the future, not just in organizations, nonprofits, and local communities, but you all are working globally on some pretty big programs for young people. And I'm guessing there's some accessibility that we can offer folk that don't know to get involved and their kids involved. I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about how you changing the world too, Miss King
Oh,
Turner.
I so appreciate it. And so we have a program for our youth and families. One of our pillars that we focus on at the Unity Collaborative is just around youth and families, that next generation of workforce development that we talked about, and that next generation of leaders. And so our program is called Roots, and Roots focuses on global and civic engagement leadership with a tie into the United Nations, to really help young people from a high school, 10th, 11th, and 12th through college grade level, where we engage them in a 6-week pre global leadership course, preparing them as we then take them on a week-long trip to the United Nations, where they have the opportunity to then engage with other youth from across the world as we merge upon the United Nations 3 times a year.
Wow.
And they do have an opportunity to work on a presentation. So, for example, next month, it is around Earth Day and around environmental justice. And how are we preserving the earth? How are we preserving and being responsible for emissions in the air and so on and so forth? So, we'll take a group of college students along with high school students for peer mentorship. We work with them in a 6-week course, leadership global course and their project. We take them off to New York. They get to present their project around Earth Day and environmental justice on a global scale with other youth at the youth conference. We then
At the
take them
United
on
Nations.
cultural experiences in New York. We then bring them back And once we bring them back after that week-long experience with the United Nations and global and world leaders and perspectives, then we take them through an 8-week civic engagement course on how to take what they learned there from a global perspective to then be able to transcend it and translate it within their college, high school, and community. And so it is about how are we exposing our young people to be able to think from a global and a civic society and perspective, because um, global economics and global workforce is becoming more and more of a reality. It was less of a reality when I was coming up, but now
Mm.
it is just a part of how we do business, how we operate, how we engage in civic and governmental and economic growth and advancement. So it is important to us to be able to ensure that we are not just preparing our young people for a workforce and leadership here, but also from a global perspective as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What an opportunity. And are there spots available every year? There's more kids can get in, more young people can get involved.
Yeah, there are. There are spots that opportunities that are available every year. We traditionally partner with either a college or a university and or high schools. So if there
Okay.
are colleges or universities or high schools that are interested in participating in our Roots program along with the Unity Collaborative and our partner, which is Peak Institute, they can definitely reach out to us and send us an email at info at theunitycollaborative.com. Again, info at theunitycollaborative.com and inquire about the Roots program, and we will be more than happy to get involved. We do this trip 3 times a year. And so our
Wow.
first is in the spring, one in the summer, and one in the fall.
Amazing. And the
Thank
work
you.
goes on. You sure
And it
are
goes
staying on the
on.
agenda, my friend.
Stay on the
You are.
agenda. Yes, I
And you
appreciate you.
taking a whole nother generation and making sure they're there. And folks, we're going to put more information about the youth program as well as the Unity Collaborative, how you can connect with Darlene, how you can support their organization. They are a nonprofit organization, and
Yeah.
you know you've been given to some folks, but if you like what you hear they're working on, I would suggest you look up the Unity Collaborative and see what you can do to join them on their movement. Darlene, it's a blessing. I
Oh,
really
it's
do
a
appreciate
blessing.
you for coming on,
Thank
and I
you.
honor you for what you do, and
I
I hope to see you
appreciate.
again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Keep up the amazing work.
I shall do so.
All
And to
right.
those of you watching, please like and subscribe at those places that you caught the podcast. And if it's not a good spot for you, the podcast is now on YouTube and Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts available to you now. Like and subscribe. And we're coming back to you soon with another great guest with more great stories of wonderful people who are helping all of us get unstuck.